Culver City, early 1933. The boardroom windows are cracked just slightly, but the California air doesn't move. Cigarette smoke hangs low, trapped beneath the polished beams of the ceiling. A long mahogany table stretches across the room like a stage. At the head of it sits Louis B. Mayer, hands folded, pinky ring catching the light. He is smiling. He has just finished a joke. It wasn't particularly clever, something about our family and how even the most temperamental children eventually learn who pays for dinner. The kind of joke he uses often, fatherly, harmless, almost tender. The men around the table laugh on cue. Some lean back in their chairs, one executive taps ash into a crystal tray, another nods too quickly. The laughter lingers half a second longer than it should. Irving Thalberg doesn't laugh. He had started to, his mouth opened, a soft exhale left his chest, then he stopped. Not dramatically, not abruptly. He simply went still. His fingers, which had been resting lightly on a stack of production memos, tighten slightly. His eyes lift from the table and meet Mayer, just for a moment. And then he looks down. He does not finish the breath, he does not finish the smile, he does not finish the sentence he had been preparing to say. Silence spreads outward from him like a stain. The room feels it before anyone understands it. Because Irving Thalberg is not just another executive. He is the boy wonder, head of production at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, the architect behind Grand Hotel, the quiet mind shaping the studio's prestige. Mayer is the face, the voice, the handshake, but Thalberg is the one who decides what gets made, who gets cast, who rises. And now in this room he has chosen not to speak. Mayer notices. He doesn't stop smiling, that's the detail that matters. His eyes shift, barely perceptible, toward Thalberg's hands, then back to his face. The smile remains, but something behind it tightens, something calculating. The executives around the table begin to feel it too. The laughter fades. No one moves to fill the silence. Because they all understand what this meeting is really about. Contracts. Control. Ownership. In 1933, MGM doesn't simply employ actors, it owns them. 7-year contracts, morality clauses, suspension penalties, careers built and dismantled with signatures. The Great Depression has hardened everything. Money is tight, authority is tighter. And Mayer has been reinforcing that authority. Publicly, he calls the studio a family. Privately, he reminds everyone who the father is. This morning's meeting was supposed to be procedural. A discussion about renewing certain star contracts, adjusting terms, tightening clauses. A few actors had begun testing their leverage, minor resistance, nothing public, nothing dramatic. But enough to irritate Mayer. He had opened the meeting warmly, always warm at first. He spoke about loyalty, about gratitude, about how fortunate their stars were to belong to the finest studio in Hollywood, how stability was a gift in uncertain times. Then came the joke. Our children sometimes forget, Mayer had said, smiling around the table, that they are safest at home. The men laughed. Except Thalberg. Because Thalberg knows exactly what that sentence means. He had been advocating quietly for flexibility in contracts, not out of rebellion, out of strategy. He understands talent. He knows that resentment leaks into performances, that fear can dull charisma. He had prepared a careful argument, a measured response, a way to preserve Mayer's authority while easing pressure behind the scenes. He never delivers it. Instead, when Mayer's eyes lock with his, something unspoken passes between them. It isn't hostility. It's recognition. Mayer sees that Thalberg is no longer entirely aligned. Thalberg sees that Mayer already knows. And in that instant, the boardroom becomes very small. One of the executives clears his throat, too loudly, papers shuffle, a chair creaks. Mayer finally speaks again. Softly. Well, he says, still smiling. Irving. The room turns. Every face angles toward the boy wonder. Thalberg adjusts his tie, a small motion, deliberate. He looks at the contracts in front of him. And says nothing. 3 seconds pass. 4. 5. For men who negotiate million-dollar pictures, it feels like an eternity. Because this is not a lapse. It is a choice. Thalberg closes the folder in front of him, gently, he slides it forward an inch as if returning it to the table. "I think," he says carefully, voice even, "we should proceed as you see fit." The sentence is controlled, polite, almost deferential. But everyone hears what is missing. He does not defend the stars. He does not present his proposal. He does not challenge the tightening of terms. He withdraws. And that withdrawal carries weight. Mayer's smile widens slightly, not triumphantly, just enough. "Good," he says, "good." The meeting moves on, voices resume, numbers are discussed, legal phrasing is approved. But something irreversible has just occurred. Because in MGM's hierarchy, silence is not neutrality. Silence is alignment. Or surrender. And no one in that room is certain which one they just witnessed. The executives glance between the two men as the meeting continues. Mayer speaks more confidently now. He jokes again, lighter this time. The room laughs faster. But Thalberg remains quiet. He takes notes. He nods. He does not offer resistance. And that absence of resistance is louder than any argument. By the time the meeting adjourns, contracts will be rewritten, clauses tightened, suspension rights clarified. The stars will never know this moment occurred. They will simply receive updated terms. Their agents will grumble, some will comply, a few may test boundaries and find themselves suspended. Publicly, nothing dramatic will happen. Privately, a balance has shifted. When the chairs scrape back and the men stand, Mayer places a hand briefly on Thalberg's shoulder. A friendly gesture. Paternal. But his fingers press just slightly. Not enough for anyone else to notice. "Family first," Mayer says quietly. Thalberg meets his eyes. And nods. There is no visible conflict, no raised voice, no slammed door. Only a smile. And a silence that rewrote the rules of the room. The other executives file out, murmuring to one another. Some look relieved, others thoughtful, a few unsettled. Because they understand something instinctively. If Irving Thalberg can fall silent in this room, anyone can. And if Mayer can smile through it, he can outlast anyone. By the time the door closes behind the last man, the air feels heavier than when the meeting began. Outside on the lot, actors rehearse scenes about love, betrayal, and ambition. Inside the boardroom, something colder has just been rehearsed. A lesson. Not about contracts. About power. And the most dangerous thing about it is this. No one can prove anything happened. The contracts are revised within days. No announcements, no memos marked urgent, just quiet edits in legal language that most actors will never read closely enough to understand. A suspension clause expanded here. A salary deferment tightened there. An added line allowing the studio to extend a contract if an actor is unavailable due to misconduct. Misconduct is never clearly defined. It doesn't need to be. By the time the paperwork reaches the agents, the tone from MGM is already set. Calm, non-negotiable, the kind of tone that suggests resistance would be inconvenient. And inside the studio, word travels without words. Executives notice that Mayer and Thalberg no longer linger in private conversation after meetings. Their discussions become shorter, more formal, fewer closed doors. At lunch in the commissary, Mayer holds court as usual. He laughs loudly, tells stories, calls the studio our home, but there is something sharpened beneath it now. He has felt the hesitation, and he has marked it. Irving Thalberg returns to his office that week and buries himself in production schedules. He works as he always has, methodical, focused, soft-spoken. He approves scripts, revises casting lists, oversees dailies with clinical precision. Outwardly, nothing has changed. But people who know him notice something small. He speaks less in group settings. He listens more than he offers. When disagreements arise over budget or casting, he frames his opinions carefully, avoiding direct contradiction of Mayer's public positions. It is subtle. But Hollywood runs on subtle. The tension doesn't explode, it spreads. In early 1933, MGM is balancing spectacle with survival. The Great Depression has forced studios to become more ruthless about control. Stars are expensive assets, and assets must be managed. Mayer believes fear maintains discipline. Thalberg believes respect maintains loyalty. That difference has always existed. But after that meeting, it is no longer theoretical. It is visible. One afternoon, a young contract actress, talented, rising, beginning to attract attention from rival studios, asks her agent whether she can negotiate for a better billing position in an upcoming film. It's a reasonable request. She's earned it. The agent, cautious, reaches out to MGM. The response is immediate. Polite. And cold. She may consider her current terms sufficient, the studio replies. Otherwise, we are prepared to suspend her until she is. The message is delivered without hostility. But it carries the boardroom's silence inside it. The actress backs down. Her agent advises her not to push. And somewhere inside the production office, an executive makes a quiet note: discipline restored. Irving Thalberg sees the pattern forming. He understands that each small enforcement strengthens Mayer's hand, that the studio's family language is now paired with sharper consequences. He could intervene. He could argue privately. But after the boardroom moment, he measures his steps. Because he knows something else. Mayer has allies. Nicholas Schenck, head of Lowe Inc., MGM's parent company, sits above them both. And Schenck values stability, revenue, control. He does not reward internal dissent. If Mayer frames Thalberg's flexibility as weakness, as risk, as softness in a fragile economy, the balance could shift permanently. So Thalberg chooses precision over confrontation. He begins strengthening films instead. If he cannot loosen contracts, he will make stars indispensable through performance. He invests more attention in scripts. He pushes directors to find nuance. He shapes roles that deepen audience attachment. The more the public loves an actor, the more dangerous it becomes for the studio to mishandle them. It is a quiet counter-strategy. But it is slower than Mayer. And the pressure builds. In private conversations, some producers begin aligning more openly with Mayer's tone. They echo his language about loyalty, about gratitude, about obedience. Not because they despise Thalberg, but because they can sense which direction the wind is shifting. Power in Hollywood rarely changes hands through confrontation. It changes through proximity. Who sits closer at lunch? Who receives the longer handshake? Who gets called into the office after hours? Thalberg notices he is called less often. Not excluded. Just less consulted. When he proposes an ambitious project with a larger budget than usual, the approval process stretches longer than before. Questions multiply, justifications are requested twice. Nothing explicit. No one says you've lost ground. But he feels it. One evening, long after most of the lot has emptied, Thalberg remains in his office reviewing revisions. The hallway outside is quiet. The distant hum of a generator seeps through the walls. A knock comes at the door. Mayer steps in without waiting for an answer. He closes the door behind him. The room feels smaller immediately. Mayer does not sit. He walks slowly around the office, glancing at framed posters from recent successes, films Thalberg shepherded, hits that defined MGM's prestige. You've built something remarkable, Mayer says. It sounds like praise. But the tone is measured. Thalberg looks up from his desk. We've built it, he replies. Mayer smiles faintly. Yes, he says, we have. There is a pause. Then Mayer adds, but remember, Irving families require unity. The word hangs in the room. Unity. Not creativity. Not innovation. Unity. Thalberg nods once. Mayer studies him for a long moment, as if assessing whether the silence from the boardroom still lingers. It does. And both men know it. When Mayer leaves, he closes the door softly. No raised voices. No threats. Just reminders. Over the next year, small structural adjustments begin appearing inside MGM's hierarchy. Responsibilities shift. Reporting lines are clarified. Certain decisions that once moved directly through Thalberg now require additional approvals. Officially, these are efficiency measures. Unofficially, they narrow his autonomy. Industry gossip circulates in hushed tones. Trade papers hint at internal recalibrations. Nothing concrete, nothing scandalous. But inside the studio, the memory of that boardroom silence remains. Because everyone understands something essential. That was the moment Mayer tested the boundary. And Thalberg chose not to push back. Not publicly. Not visibly. Which means the next test may not come with a smile. It may come with structure. With signatures. With distance. And in Hollywood, distance is fatal. By 1934, the studio's authority over its stars is firmer than ever. Few challenge their contracts openly. Suspensions become an accepted disciplinary tool. The message is internalized. The family metaphor remains. But it has edges now. Irving Thalberg continues producing landmark films. His creative instincts remain sharp. Audiences never sense instability. The screen glows with glamour, romance, and polish. Behind it, the pressure hums. Because power does not need noise to expand. It only needs acquiescence. And that single moment, when Thalberg stopped talking, has begun echoing in decisions he can no longer fully control. The question inside MGM is no longer whether Mayer leads. It is whether Thalberg still does. And no one dares to ask it out loud. By 1935, the silence has done its work. No dramatic ousting. No public feud splashed across trade headlines. Just a gradual narrowing of space. Irving Thalberg still carries the title of head of production. His name still commands respect in Hollywood. Directors still lower their voices when he walks onto a set. Writers still wait for his notes. But the architecture around him has shifted. Decisions that once moved fluidly through his office now detour. Budget approvals pause elsewhere. Casting negotiations arrive pre-framed. Conversations happen without him and are later summarized in softened language. He is not removed. He is reduced. And it began with a pause. Inside MGM, Louis B. Mayer becomes more visible than ever. He leans into the role of benevolent patriarch. He hosts gatherings at his home. He reinforces the idea that the studio is a sanctuary in chaotic times. The Great Depression still grips the country. Outside the gates, unemployment lines stretch for blocks. Inside, MGM offers stability so long as you comply. The stars understand the rules. Clark Gable negotiates carefully. Joan Crawford learns how to play the internal politics. Norma Shearer, Thalberg's wife, stands in a uniquely delicate position, both a reigning actress and connected to the man whose authority is quietly thinning. None of them speak openly about it. Because no one can point to a single act of aggression. There was no public humiliation, no shouted dispute. Just that boardroom morning, that unfinished breath. Over time, Thalberg begins focusing more intensely on individual productions rather than the entire system. He pours himself into projects like Mutiny on the Bounty, shaping performances with surgical precision. He works longer hours. He carries stress in his posture now, shoulders slightly forward, movements economical. Those close to him notice fatigue. His health has never been robust. A congenital heart condition has shadowed him since childhood. Doctors advise caution, rest. He does neither. In private, some colleagues wonder whether the increased pressure inside MGM is taking a toll, not just professionally. Physically. Mayer, meanwhile, consolidates relationships upward. Nicholas Schenck continues to favor clear chains of command, predictable leadership, no philosophical debates about creative autonomy. In that calculus, Mayer is simple. Thalberg is complex. Hollywood in the mid-1930s is not rewarding complexity. The production code tightens content, studios become more centralized, efficiency replaces experimentation, authority becomes cleaner, more vertical. The era of quiet internal debate narrows. And the industry adapts. In 1936, Irving Thalberg falls ill. Not dramatically at first, just exhaustion, recurring fever. Doctors insist he step back temporarily. The studio releases carefully worded statements. Mayer visits him. Publicly, he expresses concern. Privately, no one truly knows what passes between them. There are no transcripts, no recorded conversations. Only outcomes. While Thalberg recovers, authority flows seamlessly through Mayer's structure. Decisions continue. Films move forward, the machine does not slow. And when Thalberg attempts to resume full engagement, he returns to a system that no longer bends around him. It operates. Without pause. In September 1936, Irving Thalberg dies at age 37. The official cause is pneumonia, complicated by his heart condition. Hollywood is stunned. The funeral is attended by the most powerful names in the industry. Mayer weeps openly. He calls Thalberg a genius, a son, a partner. He means it. But something else is also true. With Thalberg gone, there is no longer any internal counterweight. No quiet strategist advocating for flexibility over discipline. No soft-spoken executive capable of challenging Mayer with nuance. MGM becomes fully, unmistakably Mayer's domain. Contracts remain tight. Suspensions remain tools. The family metaphor persists. But the tone changes subtly. Less collaborative. More absolute. And here is what lingers. That boardroom moment was not a dramatic rupture. It did not cause Thalberg's death. It did not instantly strip him of power. It revealed something. It revealed that Mayer could test the limits of unity publicly, and that even the most brilliant man in the room might choose silence over fracture. Once that dynamic is established, it becomes precedent. Executives who witnessed it carry that memory into every future meeting. They know what happens when resistance softens. They know how quickly smiles can cover recalibration. Power in Hollywood does not always roar. Sometimes it smiles. And waits. In the years following Thalberg's death, MGM continues to produce iconic films. The studio thrives through the late 1930s and early 1940s. Mayer becomes one of the most dominant studio heads in American history. His reputation as a paternal figure solidifies publicly. Privately, insiders remember how carefully he managed dissent. How efficiently he neutralized friction. Not through confrontation. Through atmosphere. Through expectation. Through the subtle understanding that alignment was safer than argument. The actors who worked under long contracts often described MGM as both protective and suffocating. Careers were curated meticulously, images controlled, personal lives monitored. Few rebelled successfully. Because by then the culture was set. And cultures are not built on one loud decision. They are built on moments no one challenges. The boardroom in Culver City still stands today under different ownership, different executives, different eras. The smoke is gone, the contracts are digital, the language has evolved. But the principle remains. A room, a smile, a silence. A shift no one announces. When Louis B. Mayer smiled and Irving Thalberg stopped talking, there was no headline, no scandal, no immediate fallout. Only a recalibration of gravity. One man learned he could press further than before. Another learned that resistance carried cost. Everyone else learned to measure their breaths. And that is how power often moves. Not through spectacle. Through pauses. Through the understanding that sometimes the most dangerous sentence in a room is the one that never gets finished.